If I had a hammer, I'd a hammer in the morning, I'd a hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd a hammer out danger, I'd a hammer out a warning, I'd a hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Ooh, if I had a bell, I'd a ring it in the morning, I'd a ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd a ring out danger, I'd a ring out a warning, I'd a ring out love between my brothers and sisters, all over this land.
Thank you very much, and thank you for watching us on May 5, 2019. And if you're watching us live, then you're watching us at 8 p.m. Welcome to Progressive Radio on TV, and this is through the Willamette Falls Media Center here in Oregon City, and they're just doing fantastic work in the building here. It looks wonderful. Our two guests tonight, progressive activists, you've probably seen them before on our show, Sherry Morisch, thank you, and Moses Ross.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone.
Our show tonight, the title is Impeach Trump, ? I'm not sure why it should be a question mark. You think we should impeach the guy?
We should demand it.
We should demand it?
You know, people have accused me of being one of these moderate centrists. And
I do. Sometimes, I'm kidding.
Sometimes.
I'm kidding.
And I'll tell you what, we need to impeach this man.
Yes.
The evidence is undeniable, and it's conclusive. And we're not having it shared with us because the Mueller report is still redacted. I'm waiting patiently for someone to release the unredacted version of the Mueller report to prove unequivocally that Trump, if not colluded, he obstructed justice.
And he also, while he coordinated with the Russians, a country that is hostile to our life and so on too, and he's covered up, and he said, oh no, it never happened. He prevented us from installing good security systems this time, and he continues to do so. You have also
$250 million cut from our
cybersecurity
and our voting systems.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
I wonder if he arranged that in that most recent phone call with Putin, or was that the previous meeting that they had in Helsinki?
Well,
you know, so coordinated.
But I don't think it's just Trump. I think you have McConnell and you have every doggone heading, Republican too that goes along with it. McConnell, who recently says nothing to see. The Mueller report is over. There's, it's over. Nothing to see. We don't have to hear Mueller. Case is closed. That was today. But this just goes, of course, McConnell himself has taken $3.5 million from Russian money in the last several years. So he's making out like a bandit.
Well, and there was one saving grace to listening to McConnell kowtow to our fearless leader, Trump, and that was listening to Elizabeth Warren give the counter-argument and to actually call for impeachment.
Yes, first
senator to say it on this floor, to call for the impeachment of Donald Trump. It was breathtaking in its historical nature. And, love Warren, hate Warren, love whomever presidential candidate you love, you must give props to Senator Elizabeth Warren for doing that on the Senate floor. And I believe it is the tipping point.
Well, so much of when you get Warren, you get brains, certainly. You get someone really empathic towards people. And, she's always tried to look out for the little guy. She started out as a lawyer believing that people who were in bankruptcy court were there because they had made bad financial judgments. But then later on, she came to the conclusion that, no, the system is rigged against people. You have medical bills you can't pay. The wages just don't pay for squat. People owe too much on college and debt and so on, too. I mean, her heart's in the right place, and she is as serious as can be. I don't want to say as serious as a heart attack, but she is as serious as can be.
My introduction to Elizabeth Warren was on CNBC in probably 2008, I believe it was, when she was a professor of economics at Harvard, I want to say. She was at Harvard as a professor of economics, and I was so impressed with her. She is the epitome of do not mistake my quiet nature for weakness. That the woman is just phenomenal.
Very well put, very well put. I mean, and to me, she epitomizes also the old style, the old school politician that allows the weight of their policy ideas to carry through in their words, in their actions.
Well, you know, you're right, but the one thing that she also is, much more so than so many other Democrats, she puts her mouth behind her ideas. I mean, she will
really
defend them, and she'll say why her ideas are good and why the other ones are bad.
Right.
And too many, I think too many Democrats sort of, they hope that the public figures it out why the Republicans are bad or something, but she will name and shame. She'll kick butt. And just marvelous.
And it's really interesting, too. I mean, I think it gives fortitude. I think it gives courage to other Democrats to hear our national leaders speak so frankly, so truthfully, so honestly about the corruption at the highest level of government right now. And you know, if Warren can articulate it, and if Kamala Harris
I was just going to say.
You and I we watched a little bit about that when she quizzed the Attorney General.
I loved it. She was great. And Jeff
was
Sessions,
phenomenal.
she just went right
And
through
Cory
Jeff Sessions.
Booker was right there too, putting him to the floor.
It's beautiful to watch them gain that internal fortitude, that determination, and quite frankly, say the things that you and I have wanted them to say for a very long time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you just wanted to shake the TV when you hear Trump there and say, "What are you talking about? You are lying. This is."
Well, and even on another level, when it was Obama in the office, and Obama was honestly doing things in his second term that many of us disagreed with. Democratic, progressive, I don't care who you were disagreeing with it, and the Democrats were sitting there on their hands. That was many times I wanted to shake the TV. Well, and today, they are making up for it. They really are.
No, I think it's great that they are not firebrands, but really high energy, smart people, compassionate. And yeah, she has said too, Elizabeth Warren, many a time, the system is rigged. We think, the average person thinks the system is rigged, and they are right to think so.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's,
you know, and just
Trump proves it.
And you know, the funny thing is you know, I'm not defending some of Obama's decisions in the last term that he had, because I, as a progressive Democrat, did not necessarily agree with it, but I understand why he made some of those decisions, and that was because of his unshakable faith in our democracy, to us to be able to have that kind of a civil conversation. He never gave up hope that we could actually have this interactive conversation about our common values, old school politics.
Well, okay, let me take the other side of the coin.
Okay, sure.
Exactly, because you can't sit here and say, oh, yay, Obama, and
No, but
Trump is horrible, and expect Congress to sit on their hands and not defend the American people against what is essentially wrong policy.
I like Obama a lot.
I did too.
Several things that he did, and almost did, scared the hell out of me. Almost caving in on Social Security, the change CPI, and you know, almost saying working on a grand bargain, which would have increased taxes and done a variety of but harmful things for the average person. And he was too kind, too nice. When you know the caucus room conspiracy in 2008, when he took office, at the same time that the night of his inaugural balls, there at the Caucus Room restaurant in Washington, D.C., you had 15 top Republicans pledging to always oppose whatever.
Yep.
And later on, when he was asked, you know, can't you get along with Republicans, why didn't Obama say, they pledged, you know, total obstruction to me, don't look at me, look at them.
That's plain
Right,
politics, and he actually took the right route on that.
I just name it. I would name it, because if for that, I would say, hey, you got to put the blame where it's due.
You know, the funny thing, Caleb, is in retrospect, you're absolutely correct. We needed a much more aggressive President Obama. We needed a President Obama that would draw the line.
Bulldog?
Bulldog.
Yeah.
You know, the Teddy Roosevelt bulldog, big stick.
They hate me, and I welcome their hatred.
Right.
These royalists.
I welcome their hatred. I love that line.
Yeah.
But the point is that was not the politician that President Obama was. He had this undeniable, unshakable faith in the ability of the political system to be able to have a coherent conversation on issues and actually work in the best interests of the country. And unfortunately, the Republicans did not care and did not do that. I mean, as you pointed out, in 28, while he's being inaugurated, they're plotting to steal Supreme Court seats.
Yes.
You know, so I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but shame on President Obama
for that. Yeah. I agree.
That's frustrating now that I start to think about it. And now we need to have a presidential candidate on the Democratic side that understands and has learned from that and will not allow that.
I agree.
So what do we tell the people who plugged their nose and voted for this atrocity in the White House? What do we tell them for 2020? The ones who know they made the most fundamental mistake they could have possibly made and not gone with their gut.
Okay, so let me answer that, and then I want to hear what Caleb has to say about this too. I have two thoughts when it comes to that. My first thought is not to say anything to them, because I have faith in the voting public that voted for, not all of them, but a large portion of the people that voted for Trump realize their mistake and will not vote for him again. I really, truly feel that in the heart of hearts.
I believe so.
Now, there is a fundamental core of the demographic out there that will always vote for Trump, that no matter what we do, 30%, 30 to 40, 30 to 35%. His base is that, and that's who he plays to. Yeah. So, you know, what we have to do is we just have to make sure we turn out the vote.
You know, our vote, and don't worry about trying to impress the.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about trying to convert anybody. The converted will be converted after seeing the stupidity of the actions of President.
Hopefully. We tried to, if we're going to go a moderate route and pick a moderate person who you know has a kind of a Casper milquetoast approach to things. That's, you know, that. It was said, and Bregman, he had Rutger Bregman wrote this book, Utopias for Realists. Had a wonderful book if you get a chance to read it. But he's a Dutch historian. He said, you know, he said, well, I don't want to be too critical of Hillary, but it was like in the last election, one of the things she says, we can't afford to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. We can't afford education, you know, sort of a bunch of stuff. She was being methodical and correct and so on too. But Bregman says, you know, after a while, her message was, no, we can't. Mm-hmm. You know, but you have to have an aspirational message. Mm-hmm. Certainly Elizabeth Warren does. You know, a variety of other people do too. Mm-hmm. And I love that.
You can't.
Also, we can't refight the last thing.
Correct, and that's fundamentally what we're talking about here. Is not refighting the battles of 2016, but learning from the battles of 2016 and the successes of 2018 to ensure that 2020 goes our way. And that includes recognizing and calling out fascism when you see it, when it's happening.
And also lies. Lies.
Okay, so I have questions.
No,
okay?
you can't answer that.
I have a question.
Right.
In 2008, we were done with Bush, and all of Bush's term, I worked on a military base in Washington, and I'm around all of these military people all the time, and people being deployed and coming back. I could shut the TV off and I could completely shut that man out of my face, out of my head. I had Air America. Today, and I was on social media then, that's just when LinkedIn and Facebook and everything was starting. Today, he's everywhere. Not Bush, and actually, Trump. He's everywhere.
Every day.
I cannot go anywhere. I go on Facebook just to check the pages that I manage, and he's there. Yep. Everywhere, on Twitter, on Facebook, not LinkedIn, surprisingly. He is not on LinkedIn very often.
I guess it's because he already has a job.
Right. Well, and actually LinkedIn is a business networking network as well. How do he's in the media, he's you know, basically in our bedroom. He's in the media, he's in the social media, he's in the news, he's in everything that we touch, smell, see. How do we combat that?
A couple of things are happening that I think are really are terrific. We have the Mueller report, and you know, you have Barr and so on. McConnell saying, don't worry about it. As of tonight, you have over 7,200 former federal prosecutors say, no, there's a lot of reason there to suspect him investigate him for obstruction. Absolutely. And that's 7,200, and former federal prosecutors. And that is heavy-duty sledding, and the number is going to increase too. They know that this is crazy. That indeed, you know, the Fox. Turns out recently a poll came out looking at Trump supporters. 73% or something like that of people on Fox supported him. 30% on MSNBC, 35% on regular cable supported him, but Fox is where the action is. And, you know, as long as Fox continues to lie, you know, people are going to continue to hear about the Iranian, you know, caravans coming up from Mexico, polluting our water. I mean, they are lying, they are lying, they are lying, and it's, you know, Trump has gone through, what, 10,000 lies now?
Yeah, something like that. Did you see Bernie's appearance on Fox?
No.
Do you think the Democrats should appear on Fox News?
Yeah, on that issue, yes. He was criticized for it. I did watch it, but he was criticized after that. But
for what?
Well, he was criticized by Fox, but they asked him about health care for all, and the people loved it.
Loved it. They loved Bernie's policies.
But those people will never vote for Bernie Sanders.
Oh,
they might. Because, I disagree.
Okay.
Because it's funny that you say why.
I learned from you too.
Okay, so here's the thing. In my opinion, and I think you can't disagree with that, Bernie supporters and Trump supporters are on opposite ends of the ideological political scale. And so they want basically the same things, but just from ideologically polar opposites. All right? So there is a propensity to be able to have crossover votes because of those extremes. And there have been polls that have shown that people that were supporting Sanders, who could not vote for the Democratic nominee because of their idealism, voted for Trump. So there are distinct similarities.
They voted for Trump because they didn't want to vote for Hillary.
Well, no, and that brings in another issue. But my point is here, it was smart of Sanders to go on to Fox. He's the only Democrat that could, because of that ideological similarity, be it polar opposite, but similarity. And so so Sanders will pick up a few people from Fox. That will not win him the election.
No, it might, but it
will not win him the Democratic nomination because they're not going to vote for him in the primary. So what good does it do?
Let me soothe us right now and remind people out there in TV land that our telephone number is 503-650-0198.
I need to see if is anybody messaging us?
503-650-0198. And if you have an idea, if you want to impeach Trump or not, if you want to make him king forever, he wants to be king for another 2 years, right? He wants to skip the election.
Caleb, I heard about that.
Yes.
The audacity.
It was a tweet, and he tweeted. At any rate, if you have thoughts of Trump, and who the heck doesn't, I think, give us a call, 503-650-0198. And tonight's show is on Impeach Trump, and I showed you this thing. There are some reasons to impeach Trump. These are 12 of them, and I have 100 other ones that I printed out here, too. Let's just go over some of the reasons to impeach Trump. Actually, my favorite one is not on here. My favorite reason that I've thought of myself is he is lying about the climate. We are going to be dead in 40 years. The planet is going to be dead in 40 years unless we take it very, very seriously. I mean, if that's not impeachable, I don't know what is. But obstruction of justice, which of these impresses you? Obstruction of justice? Violations of the Emoluments Clause, and you know what the Emoluments Clause means? He's taking money from foreign sources for his hotels and so on too. Interesting.
You know, whether or not it's a reason to impeach him, the one that really burns me the most or affects me the most is his undermining of the freedom of press.
Yes.
His ability to manipulate social media and the media message and leverage his media platform in Fox News to be able to pass off his lies, to be able to create and sow discontent.
Enemy of the people. The press is the enemy of the people.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so 1984. I mean, we used to talk back at the beginning of this in 2016 about, oh my goodness, 1984 is coming. Folks, it's here.
Yes.
I mean, my God, it's a template being used. They're using 1984 as the book as a template to be able to retain the power, to be able to retain their authority. It's just amazing to me, Caleb.
Oh, I agree.
It's just amazing.
Can somebody tell me why Senator McConnell has 33% approval rating in Kentucky?
So low?
No, why is it that high?
No, well, it's very low. He would not get elected again the way he is now. They expected.
I hope not.
They expected that perhaps he would not run for office again. However, Oleg Deripaska, the Russian oligarch, is investing in Tennessee factories, and they're going to bring in, I think, several hundred jobs, or maybe 1,000 jobs.
That's Tennessee, not Kentucky.
No, pardon me, it's Kentucky. And they're going to bring in McConnell State. And Oleg Deripaska is a very rich man. What a coincidence.
Convenient. And what's interesting also is that McConnell's got 6 million plus just waiting in a re-election campaign for whomever the Democratic candidate is. It's going to require an amazing wave of Democrats to take him over in Kentucky, but it can be done. I've worked with House candidates in Kentucky who have won in red areas, and it's all in the messaging,
Have you been following Rebel IQ? He's a sergeant from the Army, I believe, and he's all over it. He wants to take McConnell down, and he wants Trump voted out, and he wants all this stuff.
I tell
He's
you,
extremely progressive.
whomever the opponent is for McConnell, I will donate $5 a week to, or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then that's interesting. I mean, that's one of the ways that we can deal with this.
Yeah,
This the impeachment thing, is to donate to the candidate that you have your choice. Be it a presidential candidate, be it a senator that you believe in, be it a state rep that you believe in. Throw them some love, man. Throw them some money.
Let's go over
some of
the reasons to impeach Trump. Advocating violence. Remember, both people. We have people on both sides that are good. Or remember Trump saying, if you arrest someone, hit his head on the side of. You don't have to be careful with him. You can whack his head on the side of the car as
and Charlottesville and
Charlottesville,
stuff.
yep. And also advocating hitting people in his rallies and so on too. He still does that sort of. We got to punch him along the side of the head. No,
Just a real quick note.
Sure.
I saw that movie. I caught the end of that movie, KKK Klansman. That recently came out, and at the fundamental story of it is about a policeman, an African American policeman, and his partner in Colorado Springs, Colorado, who infiltrate the local white supremacy movement because it's really strong there, focus on the families in Colorado Springs. And he gets tied up with David Duke, who is the former Grand Master and the current leader of the Ku Klux Klan, and all this stuff happens. And but at the very end of the movie, what was just striking was they started showing clips of the events of Charlottesville and Trump's reaction to it, and the guys going on, you will not replace us with the tiki lights and everything.
Jews will not
replace us. Yeah.
And it was just sobering in its
And then you have
reality.
people coming around saying, well, what about Antifa? Well, we can't even go to Portland because of Antifa. No one from Antifa has killed anyone.
That's right.
People from the right-wing, far-right conservative party, these white supremacists, Proud Boys, have killed 3 people that I know of in the news, and Lord knows how many more.
You know how I explain it, Sherry? Antifa, anti-fascist.
That's what they stand for.
Anti-fascist. If you do not agree with Antifa, that means that you are pro-fascist. And if you are pro-fascist, well then, go grab your Nazi Hitler flag.
You don't have to agree with their methods. I don't necessarily agree with their methods, but they haven't killed anybody. Well, they've done some damage.
It's funny. The Antifa movement in Portland has been dealing with a very challenging
right-wing wackos.
Right-wing wacko. Their media and media bias, police bias, perception bias. They have been, in my view, been doing the right thing fighting them. It's just that they get a bad rap, man, because of what they're trying to do.
Let's
It's
talk
weird.
about how
Just
about
last year on Max.
how about Trump directing law enforcement to prosecute political adversaries, suggesting Biden should be investigated, Hillary should be investigated, and Obama should be investigated again. I mean, he doesn't, you know, he's got no sense of.
Can you
of
say
rightness.
dictator?
Yes. How can you say tin pot dictator? Yeah. But I mean, absolutely. That thing in Portland last year, where the police were coordinating, some of the police anyway were coordinating with the fascist crowd.
Right.
Right. And so they cracked down on the Antifa, but they didn't crack down on the more violent of the. I think Portland police has apologized for that.
I hope so.
Well, one of their sergeants was communicating with one of the Proud
Yes,
Boys
that's
in
exactly.
another one of their demonstrations,
Exactly.
and that finally came out.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I will have to admit, I look fondly back on the days when George H.W. Bush used to call this little Beirut. I'm sorry.
Portland.
used to
He
be
did?
Oh, yeah.
I never
He-
heard that.
he
I
had
was
come-
in Seattle, though.
This was in the 90s, and I used to live downtown, and so he comes and visits Portland. He's having a big event at the Hilton, and everybody's going down there, and they're protesting, and all sorts of fun stuff is happening. And I'm off to the side. I'm over in the park blocks, not like on the main drag of Broadway, where all the real heavy stuff was happening. But yeah, it was pretty intense. And for him to call it Little Beirut, it was just like, ooh,
That's
wow,
hilarious.
chef's kiss. Oh, there you go. Thank you.
We've always been a rebel town, haven't we?
Well, with their heart being
hilarious.
good and with some wonderful representatives. I mean, really wonderful representatives. Merkley, Wyden, and so on. Just
We have a
good.
call,
I don't
I
know.
think.
You know, we could go through, let's go through some other of these things. Abusing the pardon power, pardoning Joe Arpaio, for instance.
Oh, God, that made me ill.
Jeez. And Arpaio now running again for office. He's not
He
going
has
to do well.
the audacity to run for Senate again. He's not going to win.
Yes, he's an idiot. But also, he's a racist. I mean, he's 82 years of age or something. I forgot how old is he. Oh, good. Caller, thank you so much for calling. Where are you calling from this evening?
Oregon City.
Great. Do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I wanted to address the Portland police communicating with the,
Sure.
you guys apparently never followed that story very far
No, I didn't.
because it came out that this guy was talking to Antifa and everybody else
Oh, okay.
the same vein, trying to be friendly and communicate. The problem was the only people that would actually engage with him was the Patriot Prayer people.
Okay.
So there was indeed a lot more coordination and whatnot with them, but it was because Antifa wouldn't talk to him.
Can we get citing for that
So
story?
basically, the Antifa has decided that the cops are their enemies. They react that way, and so they. I mean, how are the policemen going to be friendly with him when they won't talk?
Well, if that's true, you know, I from what I've heard, that there was communication was. I will investigate it further, sir. Thanks for bringing it to my attention.
It came out in the newspaper, you know, they released his other emails with where he was attempting to contact with the left-wing people.
What was?
And they just, Antifa and other groups that are more in that vein, they just wouldn't communicate with him because it was collaborating with the cops.
Was there any disciplinary action taken against him?
No, there shouldn't.
Okay. No, I'm just asking the question. Sure, I'll investigate that further. Thank you for correcting my view on that. If it's in an error, I will apologize.
All right. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir.
So the funny part about that, and I think it's worth looking into, is this police officer was actually text messaging the leader of Patriot Prayer about one of the Patriot Prayer members who has a warrant, and he told the Patriot Prayer leader to just tell that guy to not get into any trouble, just stay back and he'll be fine. That was the thing that got me.
That's above and beyond the call of duty.
So
I should
it
think so.
really is, and that person, he did actually, I believe, get written up. Again, what our caller stated is worth looking into.
Yep, I agree.
You know, and that may be one point that they need to look into, but I will say this, you know, those Proud Boys didn't need to come to Portland. They came to Portland to instigate violence and to instigate hatred and to instigate and to just be,
Yep.
you know, to get attention.
Jeremy-
To get attention for their cause and the fact
violence,
that for their violence, so that they can get some more of converts to the white supremacist movement by the leveraging of media and of the violence. I mean, that's what it boils down to. Why else would they be coming to Portland? They have no reason to be in Portland. Why? They have no reason to even fight with the Antifa people. You know, so I have no sympathy whatsoever for any of those Proud Boys, and I think they're, quite frankly, scum of the earth. You know, and I fully support those Antifa folks for standing up to them, to having, just like Elizabeth Warren is standing up to those people in the Senate right now. We need to stand up to those Proud Boys, those white supremacists that come and infiltrate our city with their message of hatred.
White supremacists have actually been a part of the Portland metro area since like the 70s and 80s.
I remember the Sagrada, the murder of that young man. I had just moved here to Portland when Sagrada Sarah was killed. And the Southern Poverty Law Center sued and received money reimbursement for that because it was an obvious hate crime. We have this underlying, very ugly underlying hatred thing going on here in Portland.
Under Trump, hate crimes.
Trump is just allowing it.
He's made it
gasoline
worse.
on and let me just say who we are. We are Progressive Radio and TV, and we're about halfway through our show, and we are here the first Tuesday of the month from 8 to 9. Yeah, you feel strong, and you should feel strong. At some point, if you don't say, this is, you know, I'm not going to put up with this, you're not paying attention.
You know, I mean,
but anyway,
especially we're talking about something here that is in this same exact vein.
Our theme tonight is reasons to impeach Trump, and one of them is his incitement for well, breaking laws, but incitement of violence. Is saying that I don't care if I'm, you know, if I'm going to have another 2 years in office. He's saying, in other words, democracy doesn't work. You know, trust me. And his people, a lot of his people believe his silly, undemocratic message, scary, undemocratic message. So, advocating power, abusing the pardon power. Recklessly threatening nuclear war against foreign nations. And didn't you love it when he threatened, when he said that Obama was wiretapping him, which was an absolute utter lie. You know, it's just ridiculous. And one of my favorites is unconstitutionally imprisoning children and their families along the border.
That's probably the biggest
Also,
one
I came back from I'd never been to Puerto Rico before. I was in Culebra, a little island off of Puerto Rico. Landed landed in San Juan and then took a little boat over to Culebra. But, you know, a lot of that island is still not restored. I mean, people still have the blue tarps on and so on, too. And he says, oh, no. He says, you know, it's been so mismanaged by Puerto Ricans, you know, that he doesn't want to send any more money over there.
They haven't even sent
enough.
They have sent $11 billion out of 91 budget line item for them, and that 91 is for the next 10 years. They were supposed to get 51 over the next couple of years for the rebuilding effort, and then the other 40 billion was supposed to be for sustaining and building infrastructure, and they've received 11.
He also says that it's all Puerto Ricans' fault because they're wasting their money, their graft, and so on, too. It's hedge fund managers, actually, who have taken over much of Puerto Rico. They bought the debt, and they're screwing with the Puerto Ricans to make a buck. And, you know, it's like...
You know what's the saddest thing about all of that?
What?
I mean, and it relates back to the whole premise of this show, is that it's pitting Americans against Americans.
Divide and conquer.
You know, it's dividing and conquering. And you know, Trump is masterfully manipulating it to create the hatred of the other. I mean, look at what he's done in Puerto Rico. I mean, he didn't even know that they were a territory under a U.S. control, under U.S. management. He was perhaps a different country. You know, all those Mexican countries that they refer to on Fox News, you know, everything south of Texas. You know, my point is that, you know, how we've gotten to this point where arguing is the political discourse.
Yelling is a political discourse.
Yelling is the political discourse. Yeah. And we look to our leaders to help us understand. And when all they're doing is dividing, we get situations like like with the Proud Boys. We get situations like Charlottesville. We get situations like Puerto Rico.
Following Charlottesville, there was I guess the Proud Boys, or the right-wing group, was going to sort of come in on a bunch of people who were opposed to them in Charlottesville. And the Antifa actually stood up, and the right-wingers stayed away. And that was, I agree with Antifa folks for keeping those folks safe.
And I'll tell you who I feel the worst for is the cops. They're stuck in the middle of all of this.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it. No matter what you think about the texting or whatever, I'd like to think that the cop is just trying to do his job.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
So I'm not going to dog on the cops for that. I'll dog on the Proud Boys for it, for sure. For sure. But
It was just a look of impropriety. Is what it was.
It puts police in such a lousy position.
It really does. Yeah.
No matter which way you look at it, it just puts them in a lousy position.
Because the cops aren't bad. Portland cops are mostly cool. I mean, there's some
I've
that,
never, I've never found any
but-
that I've had any trouble with. The ones that I've dealt with were extremely professional, very friendly, and no, very, very, very pleasant in every dealing I've had with them.
And it's funny, we can dog on cops. Everybody can dog on cops for X or Y, but who you call first,
Right.
when you got something wrong.
Right. And I lived on the streets in Portland for a little while, and yeah, the cops were always pretty cool.
Well, I think our producer
yeah.
has been a cop for a hell of a long time, and he's a hell of a nice guy, Marv. A hell of a nice guy. His wife is wonderful.
So yeah,
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. That's a tough job, man. That's a tough job.
Can you help me out with the making and directing illegal payments to influence the election?
Well, of course, we
I'm
have the-
gathering you're going with the Playboy mate
Yes,
and
too.
stuff.
The Playboy and Stan.
Oh, no.
But also you had money coordinated from Russians coming in too, NRA as well, and that paid for a lot of ads.
We've seen the paper trail for NRA. We have not necessarily seen the Trump paper trail with Russia.
No, well, it's been reported.
It got destroyed from what I hear.
I don't know, but the
Is it redacted? Oh, you're talking about the NRA paperwork.
No. That's been
No, but the Russian money
brought out.
to NRA has been confirmed, and that's a transfer to Trump as well.
Oh, I get it.
So
I get it. I understand.
A lot of the tributaries come and form the the huge river that is a money train leading to Trump. In addition to the dark money, right, that unaccountable money, Citizens United.
I mean, you can just the NRA situation. If you start, I don't know that too much about it, but I do know that Oliver North, their former president, has had to resign very quickly because they're beginning to realize the thread of donations and money that came from Russian oligarchs into PACs ran by the NRA that was used to finance campaigns against Hillary and other Democrats, and money, so they're in some legal problems when it comes to campaign finance.
Also,
and I've heard they're even thinking about filing bankruptcy.
Yes, and New York also is very interested in their liability and their mismanagement of things. It turns out that a lot of the higher mucky mucks in that group are taking a lot of money. This is supposed to be a nonprofit educational group. Well, the educational.
And it used to be a highly respected organization.
Yeah, but now it's just.
When I grew up in Wyoming, we would take we would take shooting classes, gun safety classes, right? And because everybody hunted.
Sponsored by the NRA.
Sponsored by the NRA.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
that's how I learned to shoot.
In those days, in the old days, what happened was NRA spent a lot of its money on training and so on too. Now they spend most of their money on ads attacking Democrats.
Politics.
And even though they know that most of their members are going to vote, their way anyway, they do take a lot of money and the gun ads saying, you can't trust a Democrat, and when your life is in danger, don't trust a Democrat. That is not educational, I should think, but it's also, it doesn't come into that rubric nearly as much, and that's one of the reasons they're being really investigated. There was a wonderful podcast on that in Vox. I was listening to that.
So what tells me if the NRA has convinced all of these people that Obama and the Democrats were going to take their guns, that tells me that a whole lot more money needs to be given to the Department of Education for educating our population to live under a common sense rationale and not listen to people like that.
There should be, critical thinking is an important thing, and there should be some valence or premium placed on people who tell the truth, and so on too. But with Trump and his people, climate change, for instance, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to kill us. It's going to kill us if we're not careful. And yet you have millionaire, billionaire money that says, oh no, ignore the acidification of the oceans, ignore this recent report that came out that said we're going to lose 1 million major species in the next 40 years. 1 million major species, and that may just, the web of life may fall apart. 1 million major species. That is.
Pompeo is trying to convince people that if the Arctic glaciers separate, that increases our shipping pathways.
It does, but...
It does, but that's really?
Yeah, is that worth it?
Exactly.
No. Well,
losing thousands of species out of our ecosystem is not worth
And also,
shipping
we're killing the fish in the ocean because of the acidification. I mean, it can almost no longer support, at least the fishing has really declined over the last 20 years, 30 years. And it's getting worse.
And the funny thing is, too, I was reading an article about how with the ice caps potentially melting up there in the Arctic, that there's more importance being made on claiming waters from international waters to territorial waters, so that the people can, those countries like the Russians and the Americans and the Norwegians or whatever can use those territories for
fishing,
exploitation,
oil, whatever.
Oil, exactly. Russia's probably going to be using it for oil, and Trump is trying his damnedest to, so it's they're actually trying to monetize
climate change,
a negative climate change.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
They see a positive benefit in crapping on the environment.
Correct.
I mean, it's really fouling it up, and it's like, water. How bad can water get before you're going to say don't drinkers? I mean, maybe we're going to offer you bad water, but if you want good water, pay us more. We're going to,
Right.
Capitalism. People say capitalism is great. Capitalism is probably going to kill us. In terms of the pollution anyway. I mean, and also capitalism has ruined our health care system. When I was born in a state hospital, a state clinic, and the prices were low. It was nonprofit. Now medication, the pharmaceuticals, and so on too. Capitalism, in its naked way, if you let it run roughshod, is going to kill us, and they're going to make a hell of a profit.
Something missing from your list.
Yes.
Is the advocation for decreased investment in our communities.
I agree.
Giving all of the money to the top 0.1% of the population keeps the rest of us from being able to invest in our communities for education, for healthcare, for a decent justice system, for a decent educational system, for many things that we need. The YMCA is a nonprofit. They need funding. The Goodwill used to be. Planned Parenthood. I mean, we have so many things that need to be taken care of.
Have you ever heard of Michael Lewis? Michael Lewis, he terrific writer, but this is the fifth risk. And this is Trump coming into office. And Lewis very carefully talks about how Trump's people now in the federal government are ripping things apart, NOAA and so on too.
Yep.
For instance, the guy that they want to put in the NOAA's position as head of NOAA, National Oceanic and Aerospace, whatever it is. But anyway, this guy was head of AccuWeather. You ever heard of AccuWeather, the little thing?
Seen it,
yeah. So AccuWeather is on your little phone, kind of predicting the thing. What he wants the government to do is to shut down the federal feed to the public in general, so that AccuWeather can get the information and no one else can. So, so people who want to hear about tornadoes, they got to pay a hell of a lot more to get warnings.
Isn't that a public service?
Yes, but not anymore. Not if, he gets his way.
Oh, and he's taken over the FCC and everything.
No, right, no, and NOAA. No, he's not.
NOAA,
but I think his.
But you're combining science and communications.
Oh, yes.
So you have a lot of different conglomerates.
But they don't care. I mean, once again, they don't care. when Trump came into office, the governments in the past had a transition time where you shared the planning books and so on too with other people. So Obama's people are sitting there and waiting for people to come in and have the planning books and the research and all this other stuff. No one showed up. They didn't give a damn. I mean, they don't know, they don't care, they just didn't show up because Trump doesn't know and he doesn't care. I mean, it's like he just wants money.
And it's perpetuated by the Republicans' desire to actually make our government dysfunctional so that they can say that there is problems with the government and gives them rationalization to defund it even more and more, so that they can fulfill Grover Norwich's proposal of draining it down a bathtub. And it's unfortunate too because we're talking about examples. We're the victims, exactly. You give the example of the NOIA. You have the example of the EPA.
How about recently remember the Boeing plane, 2 Boeing planes crashed, and you had Boeing now admits that it sat on the accident reports and so on too, and it didn't share them. Aviation, FAA, and so on too.
And it came to find out that that safety feature that would have prevented those accidents was being added on as an extra charge.
Well, don't you know?
Instead of being a part of just the purchase price. You had to pay more to get the safety feature that would prevent the crash. It was just... I mean, these people are just so money hungry. It's just amazing to me.
Right. In what world, as you say, let's go through the rationale again. You buy this plane, I don't know, maybe $100 million. I'm not sure how much it costs, a lot of money. But then for this added on feature, it costs another couple of $1 million. You go, I mean, when my wife and I sell our cars, as sooner or later we do over time, we make sure the brakes work. We make sure the brakes work. And the tires are good, and no matter what else, we err on the side of safety. You'd think that I hope that they are, thrown in jail for that. I don't think they will. People high in corporations, they never suffer. They say, oh, we're not going to do this again. Like Wells Fargo and so on too.
Yeah, and do you know nobody was prosecuted for the financial crisis?
Well, I think one speculator did, but no one. And Elizabeth Warren said they should have been in jail. I mean, she said they should have been in jail.
See, and I just bring up Warren again, too, because people forget that back in the day, she started the Consumer Finance Protection Agency. That was her baby, and she declined to be the head of that because she knew that she would be getting too much political attention for being in charge of it. So she encouraged Richard Cordray to be appointed by Obama, and he turned out to be a fantastic guy. And it did allow her to be able to run for Senate, which is ultimately allowing her that. So it all made sense. But the point is that the power of her convictions was what got that agency started.
Mulvaney now, of course, is rolling back payday lending rules, so that states indeed now can increase payday loans and drive people further into bankruptcy. Also, there was this provision that said for student loans, well, no, actually payday loans, you had to make sure people could afford to pay the loans back, whatever their salary was.
Right.
And Mulvaney said, oh no, we don't need that rule, so we're going to entrap more people into this sort of thing. Capitalism kills, once again. I mean,
the interest rate on those short-term loans ends up being, what, over 300%?
It's 325%.
That's just amazing to me.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, it really is.
And student loans,
and can you imagine just being in that position where you have to leverage that? I mean,
or you think you do. You think you do.
I've heard something.
It took me forever to get out of it, but I've been there.
Oh, wow, sure.
Because you just keep going over and over. But if you, and I can say this because I got out of it like over 10 years ago, but you're determined and you're disciplined and you pay back and only borrow. I would borrow less, so I'd have less to
and your life
the
sucks
next time.
in that meantime.
Yeah, it does. It does, but once it's done, it's done.
But it shouldn't. People should not be faced with that. This is, a community is
especially
people
not
coming
military
together.
people.
That's
and military people, do you know, are eligible for food stamps? The very lower level military people can get food stamps to help subsidize their family because they aren't being paid enough.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's sad. That is just amazing. That's a betrayal of the commitment and the promise that we have made to our military.
Why don't
Yeah.
you, maybe we just put more stickers on our cars that say support our troops, our thoughts and prayers are with them. Maybe that'll do
blows
it.
me away.
No, I mean, we're really mistreating the
A
military.
person that is serving our country should not be on food stamps.
Right, yeah.
Pure and simple. That a
They
person
should
that
be
has
able to
served.
support their families on what they make in the military, and even if their spouse has to work.
I mean,
Right.
it seems to me that should go across the board, whether you are serving or have served. You should.
I
What
was
do-
shocked when I
you know,
first saw
That
that.
should just be
Let's-
across the board.
What do you think about endless wars?
Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Endless wars. I mean, our war in Afghanistan has gone on since 2001. I mean, it's like this is the longest war in our country's history, and it doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. The military-industrial complex, which makes a lot of money, is just promoting these endless wars. And if someone says, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't support the Saudis as they bomb in Yemen," said, "Oh, you're opposed to our military." You know,
We're in war in
jingoistic.
3 countries right now, and
At
as
least,
we
at least.
speak,
Yeah.
the USS Lincoln and its and the bombers and stuff that go
Yep.
along with it, you'll have to excuse me, it's been a while, are on their way to the
Gulf
to the
Coast,
waters of the
The
Persian
Gulf of Hormuz,
Yeah,
I think.
To
Yeah.
make a point, to
quote
make a-
unquote.
Yeah, exactly, to make
Yeah.
a point to Iran.
Well, also to squeeze Iran a little bit further, too, to
That
hem
just
them
happened
in.
today.
Yeah.
You know, once again, the book 1984, George Orwell. I'm trying to remember the countries' names. One was Europa, and one was. There were 2 countries.
1984?
Yeah, in the book 1984, there were the 2 countries that were perpetually.
Oceania? I forgot.
Oceania. Oh, yeah.
Was that it?
Yeah, that was it. It's the idea that they were perpetually at war,
Mm-hmm.
and that was one of the strategies that the authoritarians would use to be able to control the masses. Was to be able to, war is peace, peace is war, that sort of thing.
Right.
And
You have
and
to sacrifice for the nation.
for the nation, exactly, and that's
For the
exactly.
fatherland.
But what made it even worse here in our current situation is that they've exploited a lower class of our demographic to a lower income class.
Yep.
To become involved into
Yep.
the military. They've marketed specifically to them. So,
Yes.
and we're still only talking, what, 10%, a single-digit representation of the
One.
overall
Yeah,
population?
much,
1%.
I think
Our
several percent of that.
Our
military
military is 1% of our entire population.
And yet they're putting
Is the people
on
who
their
serve.
shoulders the
Yeah.
burden of perpetual
1 to
war.
3%.
It just blows,
Well, also
the
there-
profiting of the military complex.
Yeah, no, it really is. And also in the South, for instance, you have, if you're in some of those states there with poor job opportunities, poor job training, and so on, so this is about your only out, too. Yeah. You get insurance for your family and maybe health insurance for yourself as well. I mean, it's a hell of a thing to do, but
You have to pay into it. TRICARE is technically free, but the people are having to pay into it, pay
they
premiums.
doesn't pay enough, yeah.
Well, and Caleb, and then, let's face it, part of that marketing effort was disregarding certain standards that they would have, like tattoos and attitudes, and that's how a lot of the white nationalists have kind of infiltrated a lot of the
true.
military and some
And
of
also,
the police
thank God
departments.
they got rid of the gays and trans.
They lowered the standards as
Yep,
far as
they did.
participation.
But thank God they're getting rid of transgendered and gays.
Hey.
Now, the thing that breaks my heart,
Just seriously, it's bullshit.
Yes.
To these people who are well-intentioned, well-trained, hearts in the right place, want to serve the country, and some yahoo like Trump declares that they're not normal, they can't. Who the hell are you?
Well,
Military.
this all started during the Bush administration.
Well, I did it.
When we did it
I
in
guess so.
Iraq. I mean,
The
the
gays
idea that they couldn't
That
have
was
a
gay
volunteer
people.
force. And they needed to be
Yeah.
able to fill the ranks of new soldiers, and so they
Right.
opened up how they
They didn't discriminate as much. Yeah.
Correct.
But on this thing, under Obama,
That's what I was
though,
talking
yeah.
about.
But one of the things that, in addition to money and ego, what Trump wants to do is he wants to destroy everything that Obama has done.
Yeah.
I mean, and if Obama is for, civil rights, if he's for, military, allowing gay and so on too, transgendered, then certainly Trump is opposed to that. But that is Jesus, I mean,
Just seems petty.
it's also cruel and stupid. I mean, some of the things anyone would say Obama has done is good. I mean, if you want to improve water quality, you know, pharmaceutical safety and so on too.
Streets and bridges.
Yes, yeah, and this is the book, by the way, Bregman's book. Once again, Utopias for Realists talks about how investment can work. You know, it has worked in the past, but we're not using it in this country now because of the Republican machine. And they just want to say, oh, no, we can't do that, you know? And you were absolutely correct in what you said earlier. I think all of you were correct in what you said. But in the sense that Republicans want the country to be so destroyed that they can manipulate it. They can rip bits and parts and say, and blame the Democrats and so on.
They want to show how horrible government is and government doesn't work. And one other thing that Trump is doing to our military and the people serving this nation honorably and much more than he would have is for many, many years we have had illegal and undocumented people in the states under the military service fighting for our nation in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Djibouti, in Japan. They're stationed all over the world.
200 countries?
In order to get to earn their citizenship, and he is deporting them. These people have served our country honorably to earn citizenship, and he is deporting them. That is atrocious. It is wrong.
I hate it. We all agree that Trump should be impeached as soon as possible, and if he's not, at least start impeachment investigations. I think it'll lead on to other things.
Agreed.
So we have 5 minutes to go. Anything else you're looking forwed to in the near future?
Okay, here's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the House committees, like Jerry Nadler from New York.
Nadler, isn't he great?
Yes.
He is so
He is
good.
subpoenaed Barr. He is actually following through on all of the congressional investigatory responsibilities that he has, and I love that. And so I'm looking forward to what's coming up over the next week or two as far as Barr being the subpoenas that are going out, and what will happen to those people that have refused the subpoenas. Are they going to get arrested? Are they going to show up and be patriots? What's going to happen to them? That's what I'm looking for.
McGahn, too, will be a very interesting case.
Correct.
McGahn now works for a top law firm in Washington, D.C. It appears that he likes to follow the law. Trump says don't testify even if you have a subpoena. It'd be interesting to see what McGahn does.
Who's going to be the patriots here?
Yeah.
Exactly. What's on your mind?
SNDY, Southern District of New York. I am waiting for that. And I'm also waiting for Mueller to testify to the House Judicial Committee.
Oh, that is coming up.
Yeah,
That,
they're saying Barr has already approved it. Trump is saying, no, I don't want him to, of course. But, you know, he can quit, and he's a private citizen if he quits. He's no longer special counsel, so that's what I'm waiting for.
I think they're
those
saying
two things.
Maybe May 15 is when he would testify.
Yeah.
In the Senate, though, there are about 4 Republicans who are saying that they want Mueller to testify. There's Susan Collins, Capito, what's his name in Arizona? Is it Arizona or Nevada? Anyway, the guy who's really weak in the polls.
Dean Heller.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But it's you know I think the dam is going to crack, especially now that. You know, Mueller is once he gets known too that Barr says he's exculpated. You know, he's exculpated. I don't know. I can't. That's not the wrong word. He is not in trouble now. But obviously that's not the case. Mueller says, oh no,
exactly.
He is. So reading the Mueller report in all of its glory, and of course Trump was just shown to have lost a lot of money. You know, the tax
that
records
just came out today.
Yeah.
His taxes showed for the last
10
8
years.
to 10 years showed that he was
Mid-80s.
his daddy made a lot of money and he lost a lot of money.
And he also lied to get his daddy's money. I mean, New York Times had a wonderful set of articles showing how he took money from his father. But yeah, he was the worst. Wasn't he the worst tax? I mean,
He was horrible. It said in 1987, in that 10-year period,
He lost.
in 1987 was the only time he made money, and he made $4.5 million. He did not pay taxes for 8 out of 10 of those years. So, yeah.
So there you go.
And he is not exonerated.
yes.
Exonerated.
Page
that's the word.
222, page 220 in the Mueller report lists each of the 10 obstruction of justice number one on Caleb's list, lists each of the 10 instances that Mueller has documented for obstruction of justice. The last paragraph states, while we cannot, issue him a crime having
Yes.
been committed, we
Yes.
cannot exonerate him either.
Yeah, this is a signed letter that now has 7,200 signers of prosecutors too, former federal prosecutors.
Thank
And
you,
he said-
everyone.
And they said he's not. He's,
Hammer in the evening all over this line. I'd hammer out danger. I'd hammer out a warning. I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters all over this line. Ooh, if I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning. I'd ring it in the evening all over this line. I'd ring out danger. I'd ring out a warning. I'd ring out love between my brothers and my sisters.